Hey, this is Rick with Decal Network. This is going to be a short tutorial. Please follow along. This is mainly for customers that are submitting artwork to us, more for custom jobs. In this tutorial, we're trying to explain the difference so you understand the difference between a vectorized piece of artwork and what we call basically a flattened file, which is your typical JPEG bitmap style file. And this is very, very important depending on what type of decal we're making for you. If we're doing something that does not require contour cutting, we can use flattened files. If we're doing something that requires contour cutting, we can still use a flattened file. You know, if it's basically, if we're cutting a circle, oval, square shape, it's no big deal. But we'll explain this in a little bit more detail, you know, why the difference between these two files come in place here. Number one is the image on the right here. This is basically a flattened file. Right now this file is a bitmap. It could be a JPEG or anything like that, but as we move this file, you'll see that it looks like a square. Now it looks like a square because it actually has a white background. Okay, you'll see this image over here does not have a background. Now this could be a flattened file still and be a PNG file or a GIF file, which could be saved. We could even save a bitmap with a transparent background, but it would still be a flattened object. Now what we mean by a flattened object is this object right here cannot be taken apart and manipulated. When you ask us to change colors and manipulate your image, this right here being a vector artwork, you can see here how we can come in here and change pieces. If you say, you know, if you want a pink tongue, we'll make a pink tongue. But where this comes into play more importantly is when you want a contour cut item. Anytime an item has to be contour cut, we have to put a contour cut line around it. Now if you send us a flattened file, what we'll do is when you want a square cut, we can put a contour cut line around it, okay, and we can cut out this image into a square, no problem. But when you want your other, let me delete this here, but when you want an image cut to shape, we have to follow around the shape to do that. Excuse me. So what helps us out is this image right here now is broken apart. If we click on the black line, okay, we highlight that alone. So if we take and contour that, you'll see by the orange there, and then break that apart. What that allows us to do is click on that and create a cut line, okay, and we can take our fill out of there, and that gives us a cut line to follow around the object. Now we could actually make out a white border and cut around it, or we can make it black to put a bleed on there and actually cut around. Let me see if we can make that different colors so you can see it. Orange. But that would place the cut line in here, which would give us a bleed to, if we were off a little bit on the cut, it wouldn't show no white of the color of the vinyl around it. But basically this is what the difference between a flattened file and a vector file is. A vector file, we can manipulate it a lot. Now more importantly, let me zoom in on this. A flattened file is made up of pixels. This is the technical part between vector and these type files. So when you want your image blown up, this is where we start losing quality. As you can see, we zoom in, you can start seeing the pixels of this file. Now it's going to depend on the actual size of it. Now when we zoom in on this one here, you can see it doesn't matter how far we zoom in, this file here is perfectly clear. Okay, now reason being, we get rid of some of this off of here so we can get a better description of it. Get rid of that line. Now if I highlight this and make a line art here, hairline, let's get rid of all the colors. Now you can actually see how this file is built. This file was built off of lines, which when we click this here, highlight one here. It's actually built in nodes. These actual nodes are points. And we can actually manipulate the shape doing this. Okay, let me go back to put it back to where it was. But this is going to be the difference between vector art and a flattened file. Now, if you're looking for us to contour cut your shape and to make it any size you want it and manipulate that file to what you want, it really helps us if you send us the proper artwork. Now, most vector files are going to be AI, they're going to be EPS or CorelDRAW, and the bitmap is basically your JPEGs and PSD, well, PNGs and stuff are going to be your flattened. Now, Photoshop is basically a bitmap. This is if it's original Photoshop, it might have layers contained in it, which is still flattened artwork. It's not vector artwork. Now, if you're submitting a flattened file for us to print, okay, keep this in mind. Importantly, we require a minimum of 300 dpi, okay, resolution, and that should give us at the most times a clear, crystal clear print of your flattened file. Another way of doing that, to make sure, if you're not sure how to check the DPIs, for instance, example, if you want a 2 foot by 2 foot picture printed, okay, we need you to take and lay it out on a real editing software like, you know, like Corel or Illustrator. You need to lay out a 2 foot by 2 foot area and make that picture fit that area and send it to us just like that, and it should print. But always zoom into your picture. If you zoom in on your screen, it'll give you a good idea of what you'll be seeing pixel wise. Once you send us your file, we will check over it and make sure. We won't print anything of bad quality and send it to you, so we'll double check everything before it goes into print. But the best thing to do, these vector files can be made any size you want them. They can be expanded to basically however big we need to make it, and it'll still stay crystal clear. So check with us and check what files you have. Send us your best artwork, and the better artwork we have, the better product you'll get. The bottom line is we can take and make stuff from scratch, and you know, we can work on your artwork and clean it up. But when we can click a line and add a contour cut, and even a file like this, for example, if we want to contour cut this to shape, you know, we can come in here, and this is basically what we do. We'll come in here and start putting lines around here, and then we'll go back, and you'll notice, click that, when we're showing you the nodes in the other one, this is what these nodes do. We'll come back here and we'll hand build this contour cut line. Okay, now if we take, you're seeing a white background, but if we move this out of the way, you'll see that it would basically be white. But we can hand build your contour cut. Now this is still a simple image, consider it. We would detail this, but when we got really complex images with all kinds of lines and stuff, it literally takes hours to sit down and rebuild images, doing this node by node, line by line. So just remember, for the most part, we do not like to charge setup fees. If artwork is simple and we're making money on a job, we will help in any way. But if you send us artwork that either won't work or requires a lot of work, we will charge setup fees. And sometimes we won't even do the job because if our time schedule doesn't allow for it, you know, with production, we can't sit down and spend that much time on artwork. So make sure you send us what you have or ask questions about artwork, and we hope this really helps out explain the difference between a vector file and a flattened file.